Hello there, what is going on everyone? Today we're going to be taking a look at CMON's latest Kickstarter, Cyberpunk 2077, Gangs of Night City, the board game. If you guys are familiar with my channel, or if you've followed me for a while, you'll know I'm a big fan of Cyberpunk 2077, the video game, and so naturally I definitely wanted to take a look at Gangs of Night City, the board game, because, well, I freaking love Cyberpunk 2077, and so, you know, I wanted to take a look at it and show it off to you guys, and since they put this up on Tabletop Simulator, we're going to go ahead and run through it a little bit, and I'll show you a little bit about what, what makes up the game, what is available through their Kickstarter, and maybe help you decide if it's something that you might want to pledge for, and or if you should wait for retail, or if it's not for you, or if it's definitely for you. So that's hopefully what I'm going to aim to do here. If you guys are new here to the channel, I do invite you to subscribe, like the video, share the video, check out the links that are in the description below. We've got links for our Discord, which is very family friendly, and we talk about a lot of games. I usually talk about Star Wars games, but all kind of geeky games, I'm all about them. So definitely check that out. Also, we are giving away a lightsaber right now. If you want to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. So with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into a little bit of this. This is just the base game. It is available on Tabletop Simulator. This is linked on the Kickstarter page. So if you like what you see here and you want to check it out for yourself, I'm going to put a link to the Kickstarter in the video description so you can check that out. So Gangs of Night City has you taking on the role of one of the different gangs that you will play or come across in, if you've played the video game, you've certainly run into different gangs like Maelstrom or the Tiger Claws. These are definitely very prominent gangs, and they've certainly included 4 of them in the core box. Don't worry, there are more. If you don't see what you really wanted, it's probably one of the stretch goals or optional buys or something like that. There's a lot there's a lot more than what I'm going to show you available. We have got the Voodoo Boys down here, and then we also have the Valentinos. Now, these are probably 4 of the most recognizable gangs in the game and in the IP, at least during the time of Cyberpunk 2077. So what you're going to be doing is you're basically going to be taking actions, deploying units out there, moving units around, trying to do things like doing net runs, trying to seize opportunities, which are almost like sort of like quests or goals. And also hiring edge runners. Edge runners are going to be those notable personalities that you run into during the game. If you've played the video game, you'll recognize all of them. If you haven't played the video game, what are you waiting for? I know it had a little bit of a rough start with some of the bugs and stuff that were present at launch. Those have been fixed. The game is actually on sale right now on Steam, so definitely check out Cyberpunk 2077. That's my humble endorsement for this game. It's absolutely magnificent. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's absolutely wonderful. So with all that being said, what are you trying to do, right? How do you win the game? Well, victory points in this game are street cred. Street cred was certainly something you were trying to get in the video game, and so that translates very well to victory points in the game. This game is also going to be scenario driven. You're going to be looking at the various scenarios. We're going to talk about the tutorial here. The tutorial is super simple. It's just be the first person to get to 15 street cred. And so, but of course there are other scenarios and other stories, and those are going to change the game a little bit. So you can play just straight up victory points, or you can play with additional criteria for victory. Now, if you see, we have different areas here because there is an area control aspect to this game. However, the game is not all about area control. Area control is important, but that is not how you win. You win by getting street cred, and you can do that in a number of different ways. If you want to just stay in Watson the whole time, you can do that, and it might be a little bit more difficult to win, but you can win. You can spread out for a little bit and then kind of scrounge back into your starting area while you're just cranking out the last victory points to win, or street cred to win. You can totally do that. You have different parts on the board. So we're going to look at some story cards can go here. These are going to, of course, be relevant to whatever story you're playing. Right now, since we are just playing the tutorial, we would just put the tutorial card over here, and that's just going to remind us how we win, and it's pretty close to the street cred, so it's pretty close to your victory points, right? So that makes sense. Upgrade cards, these are where we're going to get new upgrade cards for combat. I'll talk about combat a little bit later. You have net runners section over here. This is another thing you can do to get victory points. Is basically one of the things you do in this game is you have net runners who are going to try to go and hack into the net, and maybe they're going to be stealing money or getting secrets and things like that. So that's one section of the board. Edge runners, these are the extra people you're going to hire, your hired guns, and of course you'll have a deck, and then you have 2 that are available. You have opportunities. These are going to be kind of like quests or important aspects or missions and things that you're trying to gain that you're also going to be gaining. These are other ways to gain street cred. And so there's a whole deck of opportunities over here, and they all have different requirements. And then when you get them, when you basically take them, we call it seizing an opportunity. When you seize them, you're going to gain different victory points based on what they say. So again, pretty cool stuff. I am using interchangeably the term street cred and victory points. Just to reiterate, they are basically the same thing here. So if I say victory points, that's me just speaking as a regular gamer, but street cred is victory points in this game, even though I've already said that. Now, the different areas have, of course, they have a border that is highlighted according to their color. If 2 zones are adjacent, then the border is touched, then you can move between them. Inside each of those zones, you're also going to have different points of interest. You'll notice that each zone has 2 different points of interest, and they're different colors. And so, characters are in this zone aren't necessarily in this point of interest. It counts as, it takes a move to put somebody in here. Well, how do you move them? Well, let's go ahead and talk about our action board a little bit here. So, I'm going to be playing as the Voodoo Boys today. I'm not going to play a whole game. I'm just going to show you a little bit. So I have my Voodoo Boys already set up. They start in Pacifica. We have 9 different minis, although I've put 3 of them out already. You're going to have 3 solos. You're going to have 3 techies and 3 net runners. And you start with 1 each in your home zone, plus a hideout, which is going to be this token right here. And then you also get a drone. And really, the nice thing about TTS is it reminds me what all of these things are called when I mouse over them. So really nice job. Whoever made this module in TTS, very, very good job there. So I start with 3 of them in there. None of them are in any of the points of interest, but those points of interest are going to be important. A lot of times they'll be referenced by other things. Also, they give you additional options. So, for example, if you have somebody in here, then you are able to now hire an edge runner. See how the symbology matches up? So again, good work on the symbology. It all makes sense right there. You're also going to start with some money. You've got eddies, which are euro dollars, and then you've got contraband, which is another type of currency. There are also secrets. These are these symbols right here, and of course those can be used for money, and they can also be used for things that require secrets specifically. And so those are the 3 different basic types of currency. I'm just starting with 2 eddies and 1 contraband. Now on my turn, I can take 2 actions. I can take those actions by pulling 2 tokens down. Now, I'll talk about what each of these do, but once I've taken my 2 actions, I'm done. I'll go to the next person. I don't have to take both. I can do just one if, for some reason, I want to. If the strategy of the moment decides, hey, I don't want to do another one, let me just stop here. Or, instead of activating any of these tokens, I can do a reclaim action. But let's talk about the activations first. So, for my turn, I'm going to take normal. I'm going to activate units. So, if I pull a solo down, now all of a sudden I can move all of my solos that are on the board. So this guy, he's in Pacifica. He might want to move up to Haywood. I'm trying to spread out a little bit, right? Establish some presence in Haywood. There's 2 things that basically go with how you are in a zone. You either have presence, which means you have somebody there, or you have dominance, which means you have the most miniatures there, and you have a hideout, which is, again, this is kind of like a spawn point. I played Rising Sun an awful lot, and it's, you have strongholds in that game. It's basically, like a base where dudes will come out of. And so that's, and you can build more hideouts as the game goes on. Having dominance is very important because, as we can see in this opportunity right here, one of the requirements is I have to have dominance in Pacifica to be able to get this one. And hey, wouldn't you know it, I start off with dominance in Pacifica because I have a hideout and I have the most number of people there, which is very cool. Now, I couldn't have the hideout by itself. I'd have to have at least one, and I'd have to have the most. So if my opponent moved in and we were tied, no dominance. You got to have totally the most. So with solo, I can basically move my dudes up there, and that's what I did with the solo. If I had 2 solos out on the board, again at the end, at the end of a reclaim action, you'll be able to put more dudes out there. And if I had more, like 2 solos, I could move both of them. I can move all of the solos that I have when I do a solo action. Then after I've moved all of the solos that I have, then I can start a firefight if I have one of those solos in a zone where there are enemies. And that's a cool thing because then we will get into combat. Let's just say, for example, this guy was already here, and then I did the solo action. I moved him into there. Boom, and I can now start a fight with the Tiger Claws, and then we're going to go into combat. Combat is pretty cool because we're all going to have 4 starting cards, and you have different number of gun symbols on there. We're going to take one in secret and lay it down, and then you don't know what I played, I won't know what you played, and then when we're all done, we're going to flip them over, and then we're going to do a compare. So there's a reveal step, and then there's a compare step, and then they all do different things, and sometimes you can lose a firefight, but still gain victory points, or street cred. So sometimes it's advantageous to lose one, and but usually it's advantageous to win, because the winner gets to say, well, all right, if you lost, one of your minis are going to go away. And so you can start to, if you're trying to get dominance in somebody else's home turf, you have to start eliminating their minis one by one. So combat isn't really about how many minis you have, it's more about the size of the guns that you bring, which is pretty cool. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. So that's what happens when you can only do one firefight when you do a solo, even if you had like 3 or 4, solos out there. You only start with 3, but you might recruit one with an edge runner. Next, you have tech. This is your techie one, I believe. Yeah. Or is that your net runner? No, that's your techie. Yeah. So your techie, you can move your techies, and you can build a drone, which these guys can also move around, or you can try to I believe you can try to seize an opportunity as well with techies. With the net runners, you can move your net runners, and you can also then try to do a net run. And so this is pretty cool. This for the number of net runners you have, you'll be able to move your token down on this list. So if I had 2 net runners, I can move up to 2 spaces. I don't have to move 2, but wherever you stop, you're going to gain that bonus effect. Then you're going to roll the 2 dice, and if I'm in this top section, I want to I want to get higher than a 4. If I'm in this medium section, I want to get higher than a 5. And if I'm in this last section, I want to get higher than a 7. Otherwise, I have to do the bad thing. So let's just say I made it up to here, and I'm going to roll the 2 dice. Boom, boom, boom. Let's see what happens. I got a 5, since I just barely made it. So I'm okay. But if I had moved into here and then rolled a 5, since it's a 5 or less, I would have to sacrifice a friendly net runner, and basically my dude jacked into the net and he got fried. So that's certainly something that happens in Cyberpunk 2077. So anyway, that's pretty cool stuff. It's a great way to get extra street cred. If you get all the way to the end, then you reset and then you get to start all over again. So you had like a really successful net run. Maybe you stole a lot of secrets, or got some intel, stole some money, hacked it. Whatever it is that you were trying to do, you succeeded on that mission. And you've got 2 other actions you can do. You can try to build a hideout, which is going to cost 2 eddies, but you get to then take one of your hideouts, put it out on the board. You can't put it where you're where somebody else has more people than you, so you have to kind of put it in neutral or safe territory. So maybe I want to just put somebody else over here, and I want to drop one over there, so this way I can start cranking out people from over there as well. As you put more hideouts out, you're going to notice, oh, look at that, I gained another street cred. Oh, and I gained 2 more street cred for having my third or my final hideout out. So that's kind of cool. So it's an incentive for you to kind of grow your bases and your safe houses and stuff like that. Another action that I can do is to upgrade my combat cards, because we all start with these basic 4 combat cards. There's also a deck, so I can shuffle those. You get to draw 2 and pick 1. And put the other one on the bottom. So this one only is 1, but it's got some special reveal stuff, so I can gain secrets for each net runner in this firefight. So this one's like, hey, I'm not going to win this firefight, but I could totally get some money, so maybe it's worth it. But otherwise, this one, oh wow, 4 guns right there. Very, very cool stuff. Plus additional street creds that you can get from fighting. So again, there's lots of different ways you can get street cred, get your victory points through a multitude of ways, not just through area control, although area control is certainly part of it. So I would take one of those, I would replace one of the cards in my hand, so you're still only going to have 4, and you put the other one on the bottom of the deck. And then our last action is a wild. This could be any of the other ones. So you can do 2 different ones. If you want to double up on building out my bases, I can totally do that. The hideouts, or if I wanted to move an extra solo or something like that, I could do that. But I could do any one of the things I've already done. Now, when it comes to my turn, if I either don't want to take a normal action with it by activating discs, or if I can't, I can then decide to go with a reclaim action. And that'll consume my whole turn. So I won't be doing, it's not really an action, I won't be doing any actions, I'll be doing a reclaim turn. And this is reminded on the turn summary here. But what Reclaim is going to do is it's going to let me restore all of my discs, so it's kind of a refresher phase. And I've got some extra bonuses too. I'm going to gain district rewards, and I get to recruit units. So I get to get more dudes on the map, which is good. And also, hey, look at that, I have dominance in Pacifica. Anywhere you have dominance, and of course you will need a hideout to have dominance. So let's say I had this guy here, I had the most dudes there. I also would now have dominance in Santo Domingo, which I'm going to gain, you know, and each zone has different stuff. So Pacifica, hey, you get a victory point in there. Haywood gives you a lot of money, right? And so, you know, you get a different combination in every zone, which is pretty cool. So those are all the different actions. That's kind of how the game plays. You're going to be going back and forth. You can hire extra edge runners. too. The edge runners are really cool. These are like Johnny Silverhand, right? He's a solo, so he's going to activate with one of your solos. Nyx is a net runner. He's going to activate when you activate net runners when you have them on there. V is a specialist, and specialists have their own activation criteria. So moving them around, they also have special abilities. So when you activate V, when you do the action disc, with the solo action disc, you gain a street cred. So by having V out there moving around, you're just gaining street cred. It was like, I got one of the best edge runners in Night City working for me. So again, really, really cool stuff. And it seems pretty thematic, so I think they got the thematics pretty good. And so here's all of your solos. These are all the ones that come in the core box, and so we've got the different factions. Different factions also have their own faction abilities. The Voodoo Boys have net watch countermeasures. Once per net run, you may re-roll both dice if you fail the net watch roll. So it gives you, Voodoo Boys might want to do a little bit more with the net watch stuff, having more net runners out there. If you have 3 net runners out there, you can advance 3 in a single action, which could be really cool, because then if you decided to use your wild, you could then do 3 more, and then you could start, you could be completing that net watch track every other round. So very cool. A lot of different options that you have there with these. The Tiger Claws actually have a really cool ability. If you lose dudes in a firefight, instead of them coming back to you, you get to put them over by somebody else, and now they count as revenge. And then the next time you're in a firefight against that person, you get to pull all those dudes back, and it adds an extra damage to your so like you're basically taking revenge. It's like, this is for the souls of all the people that you've killed, So really cool stuff, and everybody has their own different stuff. Maelstrom get to get an extra card when they're doing their combat upgrades, and Valentinos get to place an opportunity card here and kind of take it off limits from everybody else. The opportunity cards all have some kind of requirement. You just have to meet the requirement, and then when you seize that opportunity, you just gain whatever it is. Now, like this specific one says, gain a victory point for each of these orange opportunities that you have. You'll see that over at the top here, it's going to have that symbol. Not all of them have that symbol. See, like Ronin upgrades is a different symbol. So like this is a great one to get later on in the game. Maybe I don't want this one too soon, right? Because it's only going to give me the one. I'm going to take it and I have only the one. So, but if I wait until I've done like three opportunities already, then it's going to give me like 4. So kind of cool stuff. So there's a little bit of strategy to all of that, and lots of different ways to get street cred, aka victory points. So hopefully that gives you kind of a quick rundown. I know I was fast in how I talked about it, but it does seem pretty cool. I like that you're putting minis on the map. I like that it's got like the representation of Cyberpunk, and since I'm a big fan of the game, I like seeing that. I like seeing that the things seem thematic and they seem to make sense, and like Voodoo Boys are doing in this game what the Voodoo Boys did in the video game. I like that it kind of matches up and it's thematic, and it's it makes sense to what I kind of expected to see. So I'm gonna switch over to the Kickstarter right now and talk about what you're getting in this game, because I think it's pretty cool, but it might not be for everybody. Shipping is a little expensive on this, unfortunately, that's just a part of the way our world is right now. Shipping has gotten more expensive over time, and you might want to wait to. I've talked to some people that said they want to wait till retail. Look, more people are pledging as I'm doing this. So should you wait until retail? Should you get it now? So we're going to talk about what your pledge gets you. And they're going to talk a little bit more about, if you want to like get more in depth with the rules, you can get them here. They're actually posted in a PDF. They have a PDF of all of the rules right here, and so you can definitely check all of that out. And so they're basically talking now. It's a $110 pledge for the base game plus all the stretch goals. And you're thinking, well, all right, what should I get? So If you're familiar with the game, you're getting those clans we talked about already, and like the dudes for those clans are all kind of generic. You're not getting like the named people. Like the Voodoo Boys don't have Placide in the Voodoo Boys faction. Of course, maybe by the time you watch this, there'll be an upgrade, an unlock for Placide or something like that. But we got Johnny Silverhand, Keanu Reeves' character. If you've never heard if you've never played Cyberpunk 2077 before, I'm sure you've at least heard of Johnny Silverhand. You got Jackie Wells, you got Rogue, you got Takamura, Judy, you've got Nyx. Nyx is maybe the only person in here that's like least recognizable. I did some quests for Nyx in the back of the Aftermath bar, but it wasn't like a main character. But Victor, huge character, Carrie, River Ward, and T-Bug. Rip T-Bug. I think T-Bug is still alive, actually. Anyway, this is kind of a deep cut into Cyber 2077. But a lot of like big recognizable characters, and I think that's a really cool thing. Now, some people have said, I hate that there's all these stretch goals and all these things that I might miss out on if I have to wait until retail. So let me talk about that, for example, for a little bit. You're getting a ton of important, crucial story characters here, which is cool. But I'll say this about every CMON game that I have played, the core game gives you the core experience, and all those extras and stretch goals are usually not mandatory. They're like one of my favorite games is Rising Sun. Eric Lang worked on that, and he also worked on this too, by the way. And with Rising Sun, like most times when I play Rising Sun, I'm typically using the base game. I don't really go too deep into the stretch goals for Rising Sun. Every once in a while I do. I'd say probably about 90% of my playthroughs are just using base game components. And every once in a while we spice it up with something a little different. So, if for whatever reason you can't get into this and you can't pledge and you're afraid you're going to miss out on stuff, and you're watching this like a year from now, I still think the base game is going to be a blast and a really good time. Plus, a lot of the extras are going to be available as regular expansions, which is really cool. Oh, I didn't even show you one of those combat cards was Mantis Blades too, which is a really cool thing. And of course they're gonna have the rings. So when you hire an edge runner, they're gonna have your color on there, so you're gonna be able to say like, oh, that's my Johnny Silverhand, it's not yours. So that's another important thing. You got all your cardboard. I would bet by the time this campaign ends, there'll be a upgrade for all of the accessories too. That's not unlocked yet, but we'll talk about we'll look at some of the stretch goals that are out there. So these are all the Kickstarter exclusive stretch goals that we have right now. We've got the V, which, okay, V is kind of important. That's a good reason for you to back, right? To have both male and female V, and they actually have slightly different stats. So there's 2 different Vs, which I think is really cool. Now, of course, you don't have to include everything in every game. I'm not sure what the rules are going to be on how many edge runner cards you include in that deck, because you can only have 3. You can only have 3 edge runners along with your 3 solos, 3 techies, and 3 net runners. So you may not want to include 100% of the edge runners in every game. But there's a lot of different characters. Some of them are more recognizable, some of them are less. Emmerich Bronson, he was the guard, the bouncer at Afterlife. Evelyn Parker, she was really, really important in the first act. Actually, she's important to the whole story. Sandra Dorset from the tutorial, she's the one that was in the bathtub. Right, so like Lizzie Wizzy, really cool side quest with Lizzie Wizzy if you haven't done that. Again, a lot of these characters are super cool. Some of them are like real deep cuts where you're like, oh wait, this was like some NPC from one quest. This last one, at least at the time that I'm recording this, we're on William Hare right now, and there was a pretty sad quest involving this dude. I don't want to spoil it, but and that's just the great thing about this universe is like these characters have really deep backstories, and some of these quests in the video game would like straight up break your heart. So like going through all this too is like a huge like, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. So I'm just loving all of this, and I know I'm gushing over it, but again, if you didn't like the game, if you hated the game, this may not be for you. I still think that there's, a good enough asymmetric powers and multiple paths to victory that I think the gameplay is going to be solid, regardless of whether you're familiar with Cyberpunk or not. But I still think that's pretty cool. So as far as gangs, also 6th Street Gang has been unlocked, and so there's going to be an extra gang. This is going to be a Kickstarter exclusive gang, but I don't think it's going to make it or break it if you get these guys or not, although if you're a fan of the universe, you'll probably want all the Kickstarter exclusive stuff, including the 6th Street Gang. Now, there are some optional buys, and I know if you've seen everybody, you said there's one person that's missing, one incredibly important person that's missing, and it's Pan Am. Pan Am is available in the Families and Outcasts. Is that going to work? No, there's a link. It's a really nice Pan Am miniature, and it's just a great sculpt. But she is Kickstarter exclusive to the Families and Outcasts pledge. So if you just get the base pledge, you'll need to get at least the Families and Outcasts add-on to get Pan Am. Now, if you guys haven't played Pan Am is one of the most important characters in the game. Arguably the most important character in the game. As far as you play as V, so she, and maybe Johnny Silverhand is the most important character in the game. She's probably the second most important character in the game, depending on how you play. It's either Pan Am or Judy, right? And so I think a lot of people were noticing that Pan Am wasn't there at the beginning, and so they kind of showcased her fairly early on. So that's a really, really good reason to pledge. So you can make sure that you don't miss out on Pan Am. If you're a fan of Cyberpunk 2077 and you're gonna get this game, you need to make sure you're getting Pan Am, and that's gonna be important. I do wonder what will happen. Like, I would hope that in the future, when this goes to retail, for people who missed out on it, that there's going to be a way for them to get Pan Am, at least some version of Pan Am. Maybe it's an alternate Pan Am or something like that, because she's just that important. I would feel kind of bad if I discovered this game like 2 years from now on a store shelf and realized that there was no way that I could get Pan Am. She's just that important to the game. So hopefully there's additional ways to get Pan Am in the future. I don't think she should have been a Kickstarter exclusive, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do if you're trying to get people to pledge. So maybe that's what they did. Either way, the Families and Outcasts expansion looks awesome. It's got the Wraiths and the Aldecaldos. So I think I really wanted to see the Aldecaldos. The Wraiths are kind of like the bad guys out there. So I get that they're there, but they were less of a crucial gang for me. The Aldecaldos were Aldecaldos for life. So I had to get the Aldecaldos. So that's definitely a must-have. Then you have the Gang Wars expansion, which is really cool because it's adding 3 new gangs. I know a lot of people were asking about the Moxes. The Moxes are super cool. That you don't see as much of them doing gang warfare stuff. They're kind of chill during the timeline of the game. So now you get to actually have them out there wreaking havoc, and so it's like that. So you get to create your own story with the Moxes, which is really cool. Of course, you have the Animals, which are the really, really tough workout meathead type gang. And then the Scavengers, which I didn't realize that they were actually a gang. I thought they were just all kind of like lone wolves. But either way, it works. And so there's 3 more gangs, which is really cool. So I'm liking that. Oh, by the way, Families and Outcasts also kind of adds an extra add-on to the board that has new zones. It has the Badlands zone. And a 5th player. It's basically a 5th player expansion as well. So you have an extra zone, and now you have more gangs to play with. So Families and Outcasts is the absolute must-have buy. Gang Wars isn't a must-have. It's I think it's a good buy because you get 3 whole new gangs, so it's giving you a ton of diversity. But I don't think it's absolutely crucial. I think the Families and Outcasts is probably absolutely crucial. So that's the one you must get, I think. And then I love it. Maybe it's not crucial, but there was no chance in hell that I wasn't getting this. The Motor Pool expansion is the most recent one that just got announced, and it's got Claire, who is another person that I really, really enjoyed. I didn't actually do much with Claire on my first playthrough. But on my second playthrough, again, I've 100%ed Cyberpunk 2077 as far as achievements, and I don't usually do that with games. So I've done everything in this game, and Claire is somebody I didn't do right away, and then so when I eventually did all the Claire stuff, I was like, okay, she's really cool, and so I'm glad that she's going to be in here. She comes with the Motor Pool expansion, and so and you're getting all these different cars. You're not getting every single car in the game, but you're getting a pretty good selection. And I was really happy to see the Caliburn there, which was my favorite car from the game. Super, super fast. But you also have the tank, and then you've got the giant mechs, and then you've got the small rinky-dinky cars, and you got some of the mid-level cars. You get the police cars, and so it's really cool. So. I like it. I'm liking the Motor Pool expansion, and so that's and of course here's a link. If you're on there, you can go down here, and this links you to the page where you can download and subscribe to the add-on to get the Tabletop Simulator Cyberpunk 2077 mod. So you can check that out. It's got there's plenty of videos in here of other people playing it, and of course all of the stretch goal stuff. Now shipping is going to be a little on the expensive side. So I think you're looking at, like, if you get everything, you're looking at a couple $100, and that might be too much for a board game. But you know, I'm in the United States, so I'm looking at 50, 60 for base games. So I'm probably looking at closer to like 80 once I add all the rest of the stuff in. Now that can be an awful lot for shipping. And so I can understand some people won't like that. If you're farther away, the shipping chart is kind of expensive, and you know, you don't have to pay all that now. Usually this is something you have to pay once it gets closer to shipping. So that is something to think about, and I think that can be a deal breaker for some. But if you're a fan of the game, I think this is something you can't pass on. I think you don't want to miss Pan Am. I don't know if they're gonna have a way for like extra Pan Ams to be bought and sold, so this way people can, like, you know, pick up a couple extra for their friend who might get it later on, or I don't know how all that's going to work. But CMON, if you're out there, I would hope that at some point you make Pan Am available to people in the future, because even if it's an alternate version of Pan Am, which would be pretty cool, you know, like a Aldecaldo Pan Am, or maybe just like a Night City Rogue type of Pan Am, you know, because she's kind of got some duality to her. I think we could probably work, or maybe Pan Am like in a vehicle, like in her car, like that would be a kind of a cool one that could just be available for, you know, for everybody, or something like that. I don't know, but I'd like that for that to open up. I think it's a great looking game, and I haven't been this excited in a long time for a Kickstarter. Especially love the Cyberpunk yellow. I would hope. I want to go back to something though, because I'm gonna wrap this up here in a minute. But I don't know if it's too late to change anything or not. But for the box art, I love this classic Cyberpunk kind of logo. Like, I really want this to be, like, when I put this box on the shelf, I want to be able to just see yellow with Cyberpunk 2077, Gangs of Night City, the board game, you know, CMON logo, CD Projekt Red, all that stuff is fine. But I would like for at least one edge of the game to not have all this art on it. I would like for it to just be yellow, you know, because there's so few yellow board games. There's so few, you know, and so, like, when I look at this, now this is just a mock-up. I don't know what's finalized yet, but wouldn't the top be perfect to just have that straight yellow with the artwork kind of going around the side, right? Like, that's what I would hope for. If not the core box, then maybe at least the stretch goal box. But I think that would look really, really cool if we could do that. Or maybe the bottom of the box. I can't see what the bottom looks like, but I'd hope there's at least one side of the box that has just this part, which I think would be really, really cool. All right, guys. Well, hopefully this has been informative. Hopefully this helped you understand the game a little bit. The game is by Andrea. I'm going to see if I get these names right. The game by Andrea Chiarvesio, Eric Lang, Alexio Schneeberger, and Francisco Rugerfred Seda. So a lot of folks working on this game. So check it out. I'm excited for it. It's going to be a while, though. That's the beauty of Kickstarter. You pay for it now, and you get a surprise in a few years. You know, or, well, CMON's usually not that long, but it's probably going to be at least a year. So that's going to do it. All right, guys. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Always forget, don't wash your socks. Wait, never forget to not wash your socks. Always wash your socks. And goodbye there.